It's a beautiful day, and on a sailboat and on any boat, the most important part is what this is attached to. This is the tiller, and it's attached to the rudder that turns the boat. In fact, James tells us about that in James 3. He says that your tongue can be something that controls so much of how you're perceived if you don't watch your tongue. Well, today I'm going to look at, again, 3 articles in biblical leadership and highlight some things that I took from each one. First of all, as a consultant myself, I really enjoyed an article by Mark Lenz about what does a consultant do? I hear that all the time, and he put it together very nicely. He said, it's like the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board. When they investigate a tragedy, a transportation tragedy, such as a plane crash or something like that, he said they do several things. First of all, they look at the data. He said that's what church consultants do. They have to look at the hard data. Then he says they investigate the eyewitnesses. That's what a church consultant does. We go and talk to the people who are there, both sides, all sides. That's really important. Next thing he says is that they take in background information. How much was the pilot trained? What were the maintenance logs like? And it means looking at all the areas of the church. And finally, they come to a decision which might not be the decision they expected. That's what a good consultant does. Hey, thank you, Mark Lenz from the Society of Church Consulting, about telling us about that. Another article that I really enjoyed was an article about absolutely the best way to build your leadership team. Christian Muntean shared with this. He said, it's not about giving your leaders more training. He says, we often try to give our leaders more training. It's about you as a leader getting more training. He said, as a parent, he said, it's not about trying to give the child more training, but him as a parent understand how to better train the child. Hey, thank you, Christian. That is a great analogy. Really makes me think through. It's not about training the people we lead so much as getting training ourselves. You'll find that article in Biblical Leadership. And finally, going back to this rudder, we all know about what James says about it, but something that was brought to my attention by Scott Couchenour in his article was about this right here. And it's about the leadership that is, and what in your leadership is small but controls so much of what you do. And he called this about journeying towards the leader you want to be. He said, when you're out sailing, you have to know where you're going. I know what that's like. I'm a sailor. This is a little small sailboat. It's 20 feet, not very long. In fact, maybe the smallest sailboat in this entire marina. But I can't go anywhere unless I got a destination. That's because the wind is pushing and the boat has to go against the wind. So I have to first understand where's the wind coming from, and then I have to figure out where I want to go, and I have to use the two. I can't go straight into the wind. I can only go a little bit off the center of the wind. And so I have to know where I'm going before I can use the wind to move. And that's the thing he pointed out. He said, it's like with sailing. You have to know where you want to go in a sailboat before you'll start to move. This tiller one time broke right off. I went out sailing with some friends and I moved it like this and snapped right down here. And even though I had wind, even though I have a motor, I couldn't go anywhere because the rudder was broken, the tiller was broken. And the article by Scott Couchenour tells us you've got to first know your destination. As a young sailor in a lake in Indiana, I always needed to figure out where do I want to go before I would figure out with the wind how I could get there. And so one of the most important things a leader can know is where are you going? Because you won't get there unless you're able to take the factors of the wind, your boat, to get there. Thank you very much for joining me today. I look forward to sharing with you more ideas on biblicalleadership.com articles.